Yo, coming to you live from World Championship in San Jose. Welcome to the Living Legends podcast.
This episode of the Living Legends podcast is brought to you by the Banished Zone. And on Saturday, the 12th of August, from 1 p.m. through to 8 p.m., they're going to be running a skirmish season event. Blitz brings you a first chance to take those new cards from Dusk Till Dawn out for a test drive, and they're also fantastic for getting amongst your local community for some great games. So go check out the Banished Zone for all of your geeky needs. Let's get to the podcast.
One thing that I noticed while recording the video that I did yesterday, which I did like immediately after seeing the announcement, I skimmed through it really quickly just to make sure that I knew like the hook, right? The hook was like all mech set. And then I just went through the article and gave everyone my first opinions, and we watched the trailer and everything. Trailer is really good, by the way. And when I got to so I saw the I can't remember what they're calling it, but yeah, basically the smash up or the jump start kind of thing where you just shuffle up the packs and you go. I saw that, and then I saw the expansion slot, and I'm just thinking to myself, and I'm like, wow, they're doing a lot of like Magic the Gathering stuff, huh? Because this expansion slot sounds like the list, and this smash up thing sounds like Jumpstart. I'm like, this is very Magic the Gathering-y. I'm not saying that as a negative. I'm not saying that as a critique. I'm just pointing out kind of the obvious, I guess.
And like, again, like I said, like it is something that Magic has done, but also I think it's a good thing that Magic did. Like I think that it's something that ended up being a net positive. So of all of the things,
Jumpstart,
like of all of the things that they could have like not necessarily plagiarized, but anything that they could have gotten inspiration from. I think of all the things right now that I especially have opinions on about Magic, this was the best possible one.
Yeah, I'm not even lying. The actual Jumpstart, I'm not going to talk about the crap Jumpstart, because there's crap Jumpstart and then there's good Jumpstart. The actual good Jumpstart,
like the new Jumpstart, but
yeah, like the ones that are like per set are the crappy ones, and then there's like the individual Jumpstart. So the original Jumpstart and then like the second one that they did are both great, and they're both Magic products that I actually like wouldn't mind buying, which is saying a lot for me these days because I don't really buy Magic products. And why I would buy them is because I would buy them and I would just kind of like have them in my game room sealed or maybe open with the pack still sealed. And then when friends come over, when my brother comes over, I'm like, hey man, you want to play some Jumpstart? I just have some things. Like, he doesn't need any cards. Like, you don't need to bring anything. It's just, and I have them already. Here you go. Let's play. So yeah.
I think they needed to introduce more things like this as well, from like a new player casual perspective of something they can just pick up. Crack, shuffle, and play, they call it. I'm looking at the article now. I'm just skimming through it in preparation for this. I don't know whether we're recording right now.
We are recording. Hello.
Oh, fantastic. There you go. Let's just jump straight into this then. Welcome back to Living Legends podcast. I am not your host for today, so I'm just going to throw it over to whoever is.
I believe that it is me. So hello and good morning. These usually come out in the morning, folks.
Yep.
Everybody who has decided to join us and listen to our thoughts today, welcome to the Living Legends podcast, your one-stop shop for everything flesh and blood related. I am Bill from the Spike Feeders and from the Living Legends podcast. And joining me today are my two ever lovely co-hosts. We have, let's go alphabetically, Az from Go Again Gaming.
Yeah, thank you very much for joining us today. We've got a few things to speak about, both in this week in FAB, because I've been doing some stuff this week which we can touch on, but also the article that was released again because we're recording this on a Tuesday, something that's actually hot topic right now, which we're going to go into. But yeah, should be good fun.
Yeah, as people might refer to it, meta relevant.
That's right.
That's what we're all about here.
Yeah.
But of course, it's not just myself and Az. We also have Kel, the irreplaceable. I was about to say irredeemable.
maybe both. I don't know.
We have Kel from Red Zone Road. How are you doing?
Why not both? How's it going? How's it going, everyone? I don't know what I've done, but I'm looking forward to talking about some Flesh and Blood today and Flesh and Blood adjacent things, I suppose. We got a lot to talk about. The new set Bright Lights is very interesting, and Bill and I were talking about this beforehand, but I do have I have some concerns. Overall, I'm very excited for the set for many, many reasons, but I do have like a couple concerns that I wouldn't say they're active worries now. They're just things that we should keep an eye on, basically, I think. So, look forward to it.
Yeah, and that's sort of stuff that we've mentioned before. Obviously, we obviously love Flesh and Blood, all of us. But sometimes when you love something, constructive criticism is something that happens. So, and that will always happen as well because they're doing another sort of thing that Brian Gottlieb actually sort of alluded to when we had him on the podcast. That they're just trying new stuff constantly. And this is a shining example of them trying something totally new. And I do think there are hits, and I do think there are some potential worries that just are worth looking out for, as Kel sort of mentioned. But with all that being said, let's actually just start off with this week in Fab, because Az has quite a bit of stuff that he has gotten up to recently, and I'd love to hear more about it.
That's right. Yeah. So this week was the first ever UK calling. It was really, really good. Put on by Living Realms. The organisation of it was great. A lot of people that were there that weren't English and were visiting were sort of in high spirits and high praises of the organisation of the event and how it was ran and how smooth it was. And yeah, it was awesome. And I think I did fairly well for my first ever calling experience. But yeah, absolutely loved it. I've got a vlog uploading as we speak. So when this actually comes live on Wednesday, it will probably be out or will be out on the same day as this. So once you've watched this or listened to this, go over to Goarin Gaming because the vlog will be there. It is rated 18 because lots of swearing, but it's still good fun.
I did see you did keep us posted with a few pictures, and some of them had you imbibing in potentially restricted beverages.
Oh,
so
that's right. Yeah. Yeah,
so
that's
definitely going to be a good time.
I mean,
it was awesome.
Those are all the pictures, right? I remember from Worlds, Az and I took some like pictures or videos, and we were like pretty drunk. Sent them to Bill, so
Yes.
Yeah.
Just to make sure I felt as much FOMO as possible.
We just wanted to let you know we were thinking of you. Like you were there. You were there in spirit.
Yeah.
Well, something that'll be nice about that actually is the next time there's a large event, I won't have to feel left out because the Living Legend podcast is going to be going to Worlds, baby. Worlds in Barcelona, November something. 18th?
Something like that, yeah. 17th, 18th, 19th.
Yeah, sometime before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it's 17th, 18th, and 19th, I believe. So yeah, we are going to be there. So if you spot us anywhere, don't run up to me too quickly. I startle easily and I might cry. No, but if you do see us there, please feel free to come up to us and say hi. At least for me, I don't want to speak for the other guys, but I'm sure all of us would be really, really willing to say hi to everybody who's a fan and been supporting us all this time.
It's become part of the Flesh and Blood tournament experience for me. I didn't think many people would recognize me when I went to my first one, and it turns out maybe it's just because I'm very recognizable. I'm not a small guy. I have like long hair, and I'm pretty recognizable, I guess. But people stopped me a lot at the first event, and I was pretty like shocked. Not want to say shocked, but I was very surprised by it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, circling it back round to the calling as well. That was quite a nice experience for me. Was people knowing who I was to a certain degree, and people coming up and saying, "Oh, I like your content." Oh, there's the Azalea cult. All these, loads of people in the crowd as well that are fans of Azalea and all that good stuff. And that's what I was running at the weekend, obviously Azalea, and I started off really well. I was actually 2-0 to start with.
I was going to ask you about this. I saw you. I didn't want to bury the lead, but I saw you. If you want to explain.
Yeah. I actually appeared on the calling stream as well, which was hosted by Tabletop 24, commentators will push the point. Great English podcast. They did a great job, and I know how hard that is casting a 12-hour-long event. Well, I was over 2 days, obviously, so they had a much bigger job. But yeah, so I was 2-0. So my first round was against Riptide, actually, funnily enough, and I was actually quite scared of Riptide because everything I was doing, they were just blocking essentially, and then they really had this really strange list, and they were pinging me for one. I was like, am I actually ever going to get through? I was using loads of my arrows, and I just thought I'm not going to be able to do this, I don't think. But luckily, I managed to use Codex in a way where it was actually, because obviously Codex strips away their defensive capabilities by making them discard a card, right? So I was actually using Codex, even though my arsenal was already had something in it. I was using Codex just to strip a card from their hands. So they couldn't defend as much. So I was using Codex in that way to ultimately get more damage through, and then using Dominate and all this sort of thing to get the win on the first round, which was good. And the second round was against Bravo. Which was I actually just steamrolled the Bravo. I just managed to get my big effects through quicker than they could, and I ran Perch Grapplers in this game as well. And I think I threw away my Skullbone Crosswrap and my Perch Grapplers on turn 2 in order to stop a Spinal Crush, which would, if that would have hit me, I would have lost essentially, because they would have just been able to Rickroll me the entire time afterwards. But yeah, I beat Liam Holden, who is very, very well known in the UK for being a consistent top 8 competitor. So I was happy to get the win on that. So that will put me into 2-0, and then went on from there. Went on to stream against Alexi, and this is where it crumbled a bit, because being on stream, no matter how much content you do, no matter how much stuff you put out there, and that being live on camera, being watched by hundreds of people, even though it was quite early on in the tournament, still can be quite nerve-wracking. And as a result of that, you want to just play your turn. And what happens when you just want to play your turn? You start doing stuff. Oh, I missed Tunic. I've done that twice on stream. I missed the Tunic trigger because I just wanted to get on with my turn. Nerves get to anybody still, even though we make content all the time, and we're public speaking and all this. Being in the moment is still, especially when you're playing at that level, can be quite nerve-wracking, and therefore you make mistakes. So yeah, ultimately lost that one and went 2-1. Then I won the next one, which was so I was 3-1. I won against Bolton, which was fairly easy. Just managed to do better things. And then poor Bolton. Then I lost against Adromai, so I went 3-2. And then my last game was against Uzuri, and this was my chance to carry on to potentially get to day 2. And I lost by taking a massive gamble at the end, which I probably shouldn't have done. But anyway, I'm just rambling now. All of this will be on the next episode of the Azalea Cult, which I did with Jim. Jim was there, found TCG cards. It's the second time I've seen him this year, even though he's not based in the UK. So he did. So it's funny. So we did a little recap video on my matchups and his experience with other Azalea gameplay in side events, because he also did a lot more other things. But yeah, we can get on to the main topic. But I just thought I'd ramble about the calling and stuff. But yeah, that's all going to be on the Azalea Cult on Go Again Gaming, the full breakdown and stuff. But I just wanted to let you guys know as well, and everybody else listening, the general gist of it. But yeah, it was really, really, really fun.
It's awesome.
It's got me having the itch for more competitive gameplay.
Oh, this is Az's Pro Arc.
So yeah, it's going to be fun. I know Worlds is not going to be I'm not going to be playing in the main event at Worlds, but I have been looking at a few other battle hardens towards the latter end of the year, which are easy for me to get to, like Belgium, for instance.
Ooh, Belgium would be great.
Yeah, so I'm looking at doing that potentially the week after Worlds. So that's the weekend after the Worlds weekend. So I might be doing that as well, potentially. And that's all CC all weekend. So you got Super Armory, which is CC, Battle Hardened CC, and then PTI event after that, CC. So that looks like a cracking weekend for what I enjoy about FAB, and that's just pure CC. But anyway, just loving life on a bit of a high, and that's why I was a little bit late to the podcast today, because I was just asleep on the sofa, because as you'll see on the vlog video, my room was a lounge and I had no bed. I was sleeping on the sofa the whole time.
That's rough.
So it wasn't like a pull-out sofa or anything, it was just a sofa which I was sleeping on, so it wasn't like a sofa bed or anything. But luckily, the Airbnb that we've got booked for Worlds does have 3 rooms, all with beds in.
That's good.
so we're okay for that. But yeah, great time, great week in Flesh and Blood, and still on a little bit of a come down from the high of it all. So yeah, good stuff, really.
You're gonna have to rebrand your channel to Pro Again Gaming.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
Perfect.
Pro
It was
again.
meant to be.
Pro
Yeah.
Again Gaming.
Absolutely.
My week in Flesh and Blood is literally basically centered around talking about bright lights, which we'll get to. It's the main bulk of the conversation today. My weekend was spent doing casting and coverage for a different game for the regionals for a game called Grand Archive. So didn't really do much Flesh and Blood this weekend until the news dropped literally yesterday, and I was like, oh, emergency video, and I ran up to my studio to do an emergency video and test out my new webcam. So that's Flesh and Blood for me for the week, basically.
Was that what we're seeing you on now? Was it the new webcam?
Yeah, I got a very, very nice new webcam. It shoots in 4K, though I think since we're in Discord, it auto sizes it down a little bit. I was showing Bill. Well, I'm not gonna mess with it now, but maybe I will for the visual viewers out there. It has face tracking software and like a robotic thing. Well, look, watch.
Oh, I see. Yeah, so it tracks where you're going. Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
it physically moves around. So
wow.
it's pretty nice, though. I don't want it to do that. I actually want it to go where I tell it to go. But yeah, new
Pretty
webcam.
smart.
Cool.
Yeah, some stuff.
How about you, Bill?
My week in Flesh and Blood has not been a week in Flesh and Blood. I had to impromptu look after 3 separate people's cats this weekend.
Oh, yes.
So most of my weekend was just kind of running back and forth between those. But I did secure a line on a couple extra cards that I needed for my eventual collection for Dusk Till Dawn. What did I buy? I got a cold foil Scowling Flesh Bag, because I think that card is crazy and I won't stop saying it ever. And then locally, there was a player that had a few things for sale that he was just going to sell to an LGS, but I was sitting right next to him and I was looking over. I was like, hey, you getting rid of those? He's like, yeah. I'm like, maybe don't for a second. Foil Warmongers.
I decided to open up
off his bling.
I decided to open up the final 2 boxes that were just sitting on my desk last night, just while Robin was playing Diablo 4. And I was looking. I'm like, God, this box. I was just complaining to Robin about the pull rates. I'm like, this box is stinky duty butts. I literally said stinky duty butts, and I'm like, oh wait, no, I lied. I pulled 2 Warmongers in the same pack, foil and then not foil. I'm like, okay, this box is good now.
Okay.
I went from having not a playset to having an actual playset. So woo. I don't have to buy these now, which is great. I still have to buy, and this is just kind of annoying, even though it's a really cheap card. I still have to buy more sensor because I've only pulled 2 of them, and like the
elusive. Yeah.
I think I only have. I think I still only have one of those as well. I'm not in that much of a hurry for those, but yeah, the other 2 I got 4 other things. I got 1 of each of the red and yellow extended art widespreads. It's Ruin and Destruction.
I never pulled the red one. I still don't have a single copy of the red one.
I have, I think, 1 non-foil, but that's about it.
Yeah.
And then I have 0 of the regular blue, but 1 extended art blue. So,
yeah.
And then also the Marvel Figment of Rebirth and
Oh.
Judgment, I think, are the two there.
I
Um,
have the Rebirth one, which is really nice. Yeah, it's really
yeah.
pretty.
Yeah, it's the front art is incredible for Rebirth.
Mr.
Like actually just phenomenal.
Mr. Klug.
Yeah,
That
I
was
just
the Rebirth was the mat for calling Birmingham, wasn't it? The Herald of Rebirth was the mat.
yeah, I think it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, whatever they did with the cold foiling, I think we mentioned that like they must have done something different because it looks significantly different, but like in a good way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rebirth like really highlights it. It looks so nice. I also still need one of them's. He's Kel's holding up an extended art Empyrean Rapture.
Oh, there you go. Look
Um,
at that. Oh,
yeah,
that's so
like
nice.
just
Well,
incredible.
people should tune in for the video version because Cal's camera is on fire, baby. I could see
Yeah.
literally the webcam in the reflection of the cold
Yeah.
falling. It's ridiculous. My man, Dust Till Dawn cards. I'm just want to say one more thing about the calling Birmingham again. Just
Yeah,
while I'm
man.
on that high, the Warmonger's Diplomacy lost me a game. That one card. I was playing against Dromai. I had all the gas. I'm fairly confident with that matchup now. And then suddenly they had back-to-back Warmonger's Diplomacy turns, and I could do nothing against it. 2 in a row. So I hate it.
Yeah, so I was only going to put Censor in my Uzuri deck, but I'm also going to put a full playset of Warmongers in my Uzuri deck because it's just
ridiculous.
It's just really good, and it's a blue, and it blocks for 3. And I think what's interesting about it is that, yeah, it definitely shuts down some classes like Rune Blades and Rangers, particularly Azalea. But what I have seen is that it's caused some other classes to kind of get a little resurgence. I've seen some ninjas kind of like get back into it, right?
Oh god, yeah.
There was like a FAB that almost got to top 8. I think they bubbled out on top 8 at another recent event. So I don't know. It's interesting. I'm not sure how I feel about it. I don't think I hate it as much as a lot of people do. I've seen a lot of people like really hate on it, but I think it's a interesting case study, right?
Yeah, I mean, it single-handed me caused me to lose the game against Dromai just because they had 2 back-to-back ones.
Yeah,
and there was nothing I could do. I had a buff stuck in my arsenal, so I couldn't get it out of there. I couldn't play it. I could have chosen peace, but I still had stuff to attack with, like a rabble ended up coming in for 2 because I revealed a blue on top, which was great. So yeah, it's a crazy card because they could still do Dromai things. They could still create dragons and then play the Warmongers, play dragons, then play the Warmongers. So that just got them straight back into it. But yeah, it's the same with the calling Birmingham as well. There was a FAB that was 9th but didn't make it into the top 8. George Roger, I think, was playing FAB, but there was a few Katsus in the top 8 as well. I think. Which are obviously using it because it's a blue block 3/0 cost, isn't it? So it can still do the Kodachi stuff, and they just prey upon the dragons, don't they? Or the Ashwings, the Kodachis. So I guess they're good into Dromai, but
yeah, like I said, it's really interesting what it's done because like obviously like Azalea into Dromai, it's a little bit of a tough matchup.
Can be,
but then you have the ninjas now who can like prey on the Dromais. And you as Azalea, I think you're pretty good against the ninjas, right? Because they don't block super well, and also like Red in the Ledger just dunks them so hard.
Yeah. I was playing some games over the weekend with someone in the Airbnb who had brought Katsu, and the trick is to literally just block as much as you can until you find your Red in the Ledger, and then you fire that, and then you either get them blocking or it hits them, and then they take a turn off, and then you just rickroll them afterwards.
Never gonna give them up.
Yeah, never gonna give it up. No.
Sweet.
But yeah,
it's the way that people are talking about Warmonger's Diplomacy. It just makes me feel like people don't remember what it's like to be on the receiving end of a multi-turn channel Lake Frigid. Is it that far removed already? Am I that much of a boomer?
I mean, I think
I went on an absolute tear on the last set of skirmishes that I played in, and I was playing Chain, and I was completely undefeated. This is like when Icelander was still a thing. Just like shredded every single one of them. Got to the top table. It was the finals. Went in undefeated against an Icelander that I had beaten previously. But because of top, played against them again. And they landed a turn 1 Channel Lake Frigid that they were able to keep around for 3 turns.
Oh yeah. That's not
I was
nice.
just like,
yeah.
I guess I lose.
Is your chain typical? Haven't really experienced chain too much, but is it typically mainly reds? Is it as well? Chain or
No, you still have like your decent utility blues, because most of the time you want to do like 1 or 2 things into Thorn. So you're not
Alright.
completely redline, but like if you have to start paying 1 for things like Shadow of Ursur, or you like your
Alright.
only buff on your turn is a Howl from Beyond and you have to pay 4 for it, like you're
Mm.
done. It's
Yeah.
too much on top of what you already have to do. So
You have
makes
some
sense.
pretty
it's
you have some pretty good blues. Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't want to cut you off.
yeah, no, it's like the deck has good blues, and I was like doing a pretty decent job of like attempting to play through it, but it was just so much that I had to run through. I ended up paying pretty much probably more than double the resources that I would have normally had to if there wasn't a Channel Lake Frigid. So
Yeah.
um
I mean, comparing
yeah.
the two, like comparing Warmongers and Channel, I think as an Azalea Death Dealer player, as long as you've got a blue in hand, you can normally get round the cost of the extra stuff because you're drawing another card afterwards. After you've done the thing, so you can normally still do a 2-card buff and shot, even with still the minimal stuff. If you've got a blue and that, so whereas with more Warmongers, you just do nothing essentially.
Yeah, you're just like you don't have that option at all.
No.
Lake Frigid punishes go wide decks much more. Like
Yeah,
from
it does.
like a Ninja standpoint, Lexi standpoint, any deck that wants to go really, really wide, Lake Frigid is brutal. Like absolutely brutal. It makes it so like your 4-card attack is now like a 2-card attack, kind of thing.
No, that's very true. Yeah, because again, speaking from our various different experiences, Azalea can do more with less cards. Whereas if you're going wide, that again, you're like you said, the channel is taxing you more, isn't it? Because the more cards you play, the more damage it does. Whereas it doesn't happen with other classes. So yeah, it definitely makes sense. But yeah.
Well,
exactly.
Absolutely. But with all of that sort of being said, we do have something very interesting to discuss today. Speaking of, I was trying to figure out what a good segue for this would be. Speaking of go wide heroes.
Oh yeah, there we go. Look at that.
I would very much
classes.
consider Dash to be a go wide hero, and Dash for the first time basically ever is getting an actual dedicated supplemental. I guess not a supplemental set because I think this is technically a mainline set. But a support set. She's obviously and Mechanologist as a whole has seen some amount of stuff. Obviously, they debuted in Arcane Rising. They got some amount of support in Crucible of War. They got some amount of support in Everfest, but never in sort of like a main set capacity. And the way that they're correcting for that is making a set that is entirely Mechanologist. It's for me, I'm personally kind of scared because something that Cal and I were kind of mentioning previously, just before we started recording, is Dash has sort of always been a good deck. Like maybe not the deck that continuously tops tournaments or whatever, but even though it hasn't gotten an official mainline set, people still fear Dash. People still hate seeing, a bunch of pistols coming at them all at the same time. I freaking hate Teclo Pounder.
Ooh, Teclo Pounder,
that card is so crazy.
Dash is a top 5 living legend point hero. Period. It's more than, I think Dash has more than Lexi. Dash is a top 5 hero and has had minimal like support, which is insane. Like
Dash has won callings as well, right? In like
Oh,
Asia and Singapore and
multiple
stuff
multiple
as well.
callings. Yeah, back in the day, Dash was like a menace. Like in the Arcane Rising and Crucible of War like era, Dash was like top tier deck. They was like the deck to beat. So yeah, it's
So I'm kind of scared from that standpoint. I think that Dash is already very good, so
yes.
her getting this much support and also just mechanologist as a whole, getting this like sudden and large influx of cards, I think is going to be definitely interesting. I have no idea what in total it's going to look like, but I don't think it's a stretch to say that mechanologist is going to be something to really keep an eye out for and potentially fear coming into these next few competitive seasons. So so let us just do a quick rundown of what Bright Lights sort of is, what the big pieces of it are. So as I mentioned, it's as far as I can tell, it's a mainline set. It's not a supplemental set.
It is a draft set, a limited set, I should say.
Yeah, it's a limited set. It is entirely mechanologist. They're printing potentially they are printing 3 new heroes. We know of one of them currently, which is Teklovasin.
I have him on the screen right here. Look at him. Look at him. Ooh.
Yeah.
You see him there, yeah? Nice.
He's
very interesting card.
Here, I'm gonna make him larger so people can read it. So our faces are gonna be blanked out for a second, but what I think is super cool about him is that he actually has an ability, unlike Dash, whose ability is grab an item. This dude has like 2 legit abilities. One of them includes the words "draw a card." So I think this guy might be good. I don't know. He says "draw a card" on him, which is pretty good.
Yeah. So for those of you who are not tuned in to the video stream, Teklovasin, who is also Teklovasin Esteemed Magnate, is a mechanologist hero, comes in old and young, 4 intellect, 20/40 health. And his effect does require a little bit of additional context, but I'll just say it out here. His effect is you may play Evos from your banished zone. And then once per turn, for 3 resources, you may play your next Evo this turn as though it were an instant. When you do, draw a card. So obviously very good, depending on what Evos are. And we do have an example of one Evo. I don't know if Kel can also bring that up for our visual viewers, but for everyone else, I will.
That will take me just a second. I had an image of Teklovasin, but not the Evos, but I can get them really quickly. So. One moment, we'll get them on board here.
But yeah, so basically, without going into what the current one that we have available to us is, it's called, or Evos are a type of equipment, a new type of equipment. Actually, hang on a second.
Well, they are sort of a new type of equipment. Well, we'll just wait till we'll wait till Bill comes back. I didn't realize he was gone because I have the website pulled up as I'm copying the images down into here. So I'm gonna pull up Evos. I'm gonna pull up the giant mech suit. I'm gonna pull up the proto equipment as well.
Make a note of it so it's easier to find. Just have a look at maybe write the OBS minute down where we stopped.
or we could just leave it in.
Or we can just leave it in. Yeah,
well,
just leave it in.
We'll just talk. Hey, that's how you going, man? Proto base.
But yeah, I mean, obviously we don't know. We can just jump straight back into it. We don't know what. There's a few examples which we're going to bring up in a moment in real time. But the flavor text here is crank it up. Metrics in the Age of Steam, an energy source is in the Age of Steam an energy source Mechologist heroes mainline to power up their gadgets, gizmos, and equipment in their race to build the City of Tomorrow. The new crank mechanic makes items more playable than ever, with 30 items in the set. Bright lights is geared up to get your cogs spinning. So a lot of people have sort of looked upon this and thought, oh, power up their gadgets, gizmos, and equipment. So I imagine it's a way of doing a Voltron-y thing, right? And just building up your equipments to do better things over time. So the more time you have to build them up, the harder it is to deal with and interact with as time goes on. So that kind of makes sense with the powering up and all that sort of stuff.
Well, they literally say someplace in the Flesh and Blood article that build the mech suit of your dreams is one of the things.
Oh, they do.
Yeah, so like what it is fundamentally is, here I'll pull one up real quick, is you have base equipment that more or less doesn't do anything. You have one that are the proto base equipment that literally have no stats, but you just get them in limited formats. It's just a thing that you get. They don't do anything except for you upgrade them into other things. There is a promo card. I don't know the actual rarity of it, probably like common or rare or something like that. That is the Teklo base, which is basically the same thing, doesn't do anything, but it has block 1 and blade break. So it's kind of like Iron Rot, but you can upgrade it into stuff because they all have that. I'll make it bigger here. They all have base on it. So this one says mech equipment base head. So I'm showing everyone the Teklo base head, which is the promo.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, yeah, that's kind of like the quick and dirty of that without going into
extremely interesting that there's this new just set of equipment that can almost adapt to the game state, as it were. Obviously dependent on whether or not you actually see the individual evos that you want to work with, but something that is obviously quite nice, as I sort of mentioned with Teklevasen. The evos are what you can put on top of your base pieces, and Teklevasen allows you to play them from Banish. You may play evos from your Banish zone. Yeah, so so if you boost one away, you've obviously gotten the value off of the boost, and then Teklevasen allows you to then gain the additional value of basically treating it as though it was in your hand, as long as you can pay the 3 resources for it. Which, based on the one that they have shown us, which I'm actually quite a big fan of, and we don't even actually know all the words on the card yet, I think that evos are going to be kind of a force to be reckoned with. We have Evo Steel Soul Memory, which is and this type line is crazy, Mechanologist Action Equipment - Evo Base Head.
Yep.
It's blue. It's a blue equipment that has 3 block. So
very important, that 3 block actually.
Yeah, so I assume this still just blocks from hand.
Yes.
So that's a little bit of an interesting interaction. Because this is a card that goes into your deck. It's not an equipment that you can start the game with. It pitches for blue and costs 4 resources. And if you have a base head equipped, transform it into this, then equip this. So so far what we've seen, this Evo does count as a base head, so you could put another one of these on top, which will be relevant for the remainder of the text on this. When this transforms from or into an Evo with a different name, your hero gets +1 intellect until end of turn. And then there's some barcode blanking out of some additional text, which I think is very cheeky. And then it also has temper, and temper with 3 base block is pretty big.
5
that's
block?
A lot of defense.
Yeah.
And then you can, like I said, you can put another one on top and get the additional intellect again. It doesn't stack on top of itself, because even though it says when this transforms from or into an Evo, it has to be a different name. So you'd still only get the +1 intellect, but really good control card.
I'm pretty sure you would also keep the -1 counter. So if you blocked with it once already, I think the -1 counter would still stick around, right?
I think so, yeah.
I don't know, because it transforms, and from what we know, transform like flips the card over. Like for all of the invokes and stuff.
Yeah,
Or I guess
we've never had to
put it
deal with
underneath as a thing.
we've
Yeah.
never had to deal with it having like a persistent effect and whether or not the persistent effect stays around when it does. My inclination is that it would.
I feel like
Um
it probably would.
because that seems very strong if you can block with it and then transform it and then get rid of it and then continue to block with it. You can have insane amount of block value because even this is 5 block value, right? 3 and then 2 and then it goes away.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
is there any text on this card to suggest, like, if you play this for its 4 cost, are you playing that for the transform effect, or are
Yeah.
you playing that for you are?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what you're doing. You can block with it from hand. You can pitch
Yeah.
it, and then when you actually play, then you transform it. That's what you do.
Oh, okay, yeah. So if you have a base head equipped, transform. Oh, yeah. So it says on the card, transform it into this. So it just does it on the 4 cost, right? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and then I'll bring
And
up
then you
the
get- and then
base
you get-
heads that I showed before.
Yeah.
Like here's the proto base head that literally doesn't do anything other than being a base head that you just get in limited formats, which we'll get to that. But I think this set is
Mhm.
very, very skewed towards limited stuff, which is really exciting for me. And then there's a slightly better version of this that you'll probably play with in Constructed called the Teklo base head, which is the same thing but it has Blade Break 1.
Mhm. Yeah.
One thing I would like to note with Teklovasen, being able to play it at instant speed. I'm gonna make them bigger so I can properly read this. It says you may play your next Evo this turn as though it were an instant. Yeah, doing that when your opponent is like declaring an attack is really, really funny. So like being able to like swap your head in with a different head when they're attacked so you can block. Maybe they're attacking with like a dominate thing and you're like, whatever, I can block this dominate thing. Swap in my base head or with whatever, and then you get a draw card, which is crazy. So
You have to draw a card, then you get +1 intellect as well. So if you do that at instant speed, maybe on turn 1, you might be able to get a 5 intellect start when it comes back round to your turn. So the whole sort of Lexi thing, loading an arrow into your arsenal and then drawing up to 4. So it's that similar situation, isn't it? If you can do it when you're being attacked on your first turn, allows you to crack back, even harder potentially. So that's really cool as well.
I think Teklovasen is super sweet.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a really interesting hero, and the 2 cards that we've seen for him so far are just really sweet at the very bare minimum.
Yes, let me pull up the
Yeah.
other card, the big Robotech thing, the Terminator
Yeah.
tank. Check this thing out. I'll make it big. I'll make it
Absolute.
big for everyone so they can see it. Look at this.
Where were the Terminator tanks when the demons attacked Solana? Come on now.
No kidding.
Well, they're in metrics, right? The corporations don't
Yeah.
care like about Solana.
Maybe this is what's happening. They're building these Terminator tanks now to combat the demon scourge of the demonastery.
As what, my dear friend, why would the corporations care about helping them unless they're going to pay them, of course, right?
Yeah,
They can open their coffers. But yeah,
exactly.
here's the Terminator tank. It looks like something from MechWarrior.
Yeah.
What a
So
game.
for non-visual listeners, we have Terminator Tank. It is literally called Terminator Tank.
Yeah.
It is a mechanologist attack action. It's a majestic. It costs 6, pitches for 1, attacks for 6, and blocks for 3. And it kind of doesn't have any other text because the remainder of its text is actually based on how many Evos you have equipped.
Yeah.
So if you have 1 or more Evos equipped, this gains when this hits a hero, they discard a card, which
Pretty
is
good.
already like pretty sweet effect. For 6, it's a lot, but it is a sweet effect. However, there are more. If you have 2 or more Evos, it costs 3 resources less to play, so it becomes a 3 for 6 with the discard effect, which is great.
Yeah.
If you have 3 or more Evos, it gets overpower as well, so a little bit of evasion. And then if you have 4 or more, so the entire trifecta of Evos, it gets +3 and becomes a 3 for 9 with overpower on hit, discard a card.
Okay, so
Ridiculous.
I'm gonna
Which is
I'm gonna call out Brian Gottlieb here because I in the last podcast when he was on and I was like, hey, I just want more attacks that make my opponent discard stuff for assassin, and he's like, you're being greedy. And then they're printing this, which is a 3 cost 9 attack overpower that forces your opponent to discard a card.
Yeah.
Oh
I
yeah,
don't
you're
know.
being greedy outside of the confines of mechanologist.
Right, yeah. Hey, just print the assassin version of this and I'll be happy, right? Like
It seems Seems so sick, though. Another thing to note as well is the cards, obviously, if you flashed them up so far, you might have noticed that Teklovarsen, Evo Steel, and Terminator Tank, they all have different borders as
Yeah, it's really interesting. So I'll bring them up again here, so I'll make it big. So Terminator Tank, it's got this kind of like bronze and green border here. Let me pull up the other one. The Evo Steel Soul Memory has a completely different border. It looks very cybernetic, actually. Very, very cybernetic. Yeah, and then I'll go grab Teklovarsen himself. Here's Teklovarsen, and this is kind of like the
original.
This is kind of like the standard mech border that we've seen before.
Yeah.
And then hold on, let me also pull up the. I think the equipment is just the same. Yeah, the base pieces just have the same equipment borders.
Yeah, they're just like common equipment borders, common rare equipment borders, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I had a thought, and I just wanted to double check, but I've confirmed that Construct Nitromechanoid just has the regular mechanologist border. I thought for a second maybe like it would line up with Terminator Tank, but Terminator Tank is like kind of the regular mechanologist border, but yeah, like a blue, like greeny sort of color shift of it. So
yeah,
interesting.
Interesting.
I don't quite know why they would do that.
Maybe because it's maybe because it has to do with Evo things. Like maybe like Evo. So here's my like little headcanon. I don't know if this is true because basically they've kind of thrown everything out the window at this point in Flesh and Blood. But I feel like Evos are probably like the talent, right? Like without actually saying it's a talent, I think it feels like it's the talent. It's got like its own border. It's all metricsy stuff. I feel like Evo is the talent, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think
who knows?
Probably
a pretty safe bet.
But we've only seen a smattering of cards. Obviously, still. Does it say? Is there a release date on here with regards to?
It is October 6th is the release date, I believe. Preview season starts September 22nd.
Wow, so that's next month.
Well,
yes,
like
a month and.
Says it is currently August 1st. Yes, it is next month.
Yeah, next month. Where is the time going? Ridiculous.
But yeah, so that's basically what we've seen from the set so far. Something that I think is really interesting that they're sort of playing into is because this is going to be a full mechanologist set, they're implementing, or at least yeah, I guess implementing is the correct word. A new type of like quick gameplay style that they're calling crack shuffle play, I believe. Because of the way that the set is built, you actually have the ability to just take 3 boosters of the set, open them up, take out the last 2 slots, which I believe are the token slots, and then just mash those together and play. So very similar to, for everybody who is familiar with Magic the Gathering, Jumpstart, which at least personally, I am actually a big fan of Jumpstart. I like what it represents and how it was done.
Sweet.
So if the implementation is as good as the way that Magic implemented Jumpstart, I think that this is probably a slam dunk, like a no-brainer. But what do you guys think about it?
I mean, it seems awesome. I'm a huge fan of Limited. I actually used to do way back in the day what people, I think my brother and I called them pack wars. I don't know what other people call them, but that's where you literally open up a Magic booster pack and then you shuffle in a bunch of lands and then you literally just play with that as like a little mini game. This is kind of like that, except you're smashing 3 packs together. And that's what it is. I mean, it's all mech, so there's no way to miss. There are a couple interesting things that I want to point out about this. Like Teklovarsen being a majestic for his adult version. What the hell happens when you open up your majestic Teklovarsen? Do you just take him out? Like that maybe could go into another thing we're going to talk about in just a second, which is the new expansion slot. But Teklovarsen being a majestic, by the way, is just really weird to me. Just in general. Because it's a draft set. You think he'd be a token like he normally, like adult heroes are normally in draft sets. especially when there's already like 46 Majestics in the set.
Mhm.
So anyway, that's just kind of a weird thing. We could talk about it in just a minute. But this thing, I think is cool. This like shuffle three packs together. I want to do it. I mean, like that's like I'm gonna play it, and I can foresee me doing a lot of streams where we're just like, hey, instead of opening up boxes, right? Like, you know how we sometimes do, like, you know, new set came out, let's open up boxes with friends on a stream. Instead of doing that, let's open up a box and then like play with the cards. We could do like a UPF with this. That would be so much fun. Like everyone just crack 3 packs, UPF, UPF game. Like
Yeah.
seems really cool, and everyone just boosts themselves to death because it's all mech. But it seems cool.
I think that
Those
would be a
cracks
very
and play, baby.
Yeah.
that would be a very poetic way to do it, because the first time I ever played UPF was with you guys, and I played a turbo self-mill data doll deck.
Yeah, that's
So
cool.
if we're just going back to that, then so be it. That's the way
Yeah.
it was meant to be.
Speaking of data doll as well, the hero art has been released for this, and it looks absolutely fantastic. You got Teklovarsen or Teklovossen there, however you want to pronounce it, and then we got Dash as well, or looks like Dash.
Yeah,
But there is no.
it is Dash.
Yeah, but there is no third hero yet, and everyone's like, "Oh, we're gonna get an adult data doll." All this, imagine that.
Okay, hear me out.
Mhm.
Data doll, demi hero, that you upgrade. That you upgrade
Yeah.
your
That you
data doll.
BIOS update into.
Yes.
Oh, right.
And it becomes data doll MK3 and has like 5 intellect by like completely bypassing it. That's my big prediction for this set. Data doll, not actually the draft hero. Data doll, actually a chase demi hero. I think
constructed, yeah.
I think the other hero might just be another of the random characters that we've seen. We've seen a whole bunch of mech characters that people are really wanting. There's that like steampunk dude with like the top hat. There's that lady with like the big power fist things.
Oh yeah.
I think I think there's some, and in the trailer they showed some crazy art. I don't have pictures of it, but there's like cyberpunk dudes just like blazing, like, you know, in like neon fire. Like there's some cool stuff going on. I really want like a cyberpunk hero. That's the big one that I want. I want like a so you have like these 2 inventory people. I want like a not invent. I keep saying inventory, but that sounds more like inventory.
Yeah.
These like we have these scholarly characters like Dash and Teklovossen are both like scholarly characters. They invent things, but I want like some like, you know, cyber psycho punk, like just packing all of the equipment. That's what I want.
Now you just need some, you know. Now you just need my D&D character on his motorbike that's blazing through, you know, listening to sort of rock and metal synthwave vibes while blazing through Night City on his Akira bike. That's what you need.
Yeah, man. There's I mean, let me pull up the Teklovossen art so we can see it. But there's some art that looks like there's at least that kind of vibe going on to some degree. So
yeah,
it's cool.
Yeah,
I like it.
so I'm really excited to see what this sort of brings. And the final piece that we can sort of chat about for what they're doing different. Or
I just want to say before we get to that is the sealed format is different now too, because it is all mech. We are doing sealed with 4 packs instead of 6 packs. So that kind of goes along with the whole like shuffle 3 together. So it's like the one step further. I think it's actually really interesting, and I think it actually will ease in new players into limited way easier, because you can have the format where you're like just smash 3 packs together. You don't make any options, like you don't choose what cards go in. Then you have the one step up where you have 4 packs, and then you pick what goes in, and that you have more agency over your deck. You know, you'll be taking out a couple cards here and there to make your deck more optimal, which I think is interesting. And I hope this means, and this is can also lead to the next part of the next discussion, in the spirit of consumer friendliness, I hope that means that limited sealed events are cheaper because they are 2 less packs, right? They're only 4 packs. They should be that much cheaper. So
that is a good point.
Yes,
that's a very good point indeed. Yeah, that's something that I think is just another part of what's sort of going on that I think is really interesting. They seem to be really pushing sort of a in some ways it seems as though they're really heavily pushing like general accessibility, and just being able to sit down and play the game,
Yeah.
which is something that I think is super important. I think that's definitely a part that even when we were chatting with Brian Gottlieb the first time, that he had mentioned, like, new player experience, et cetera, et cetera. Like that's something that is important, and I think this is sort of a step in that direction.
Mhm.
Um,
I agree.
so
I
yeah, really, really glad to see it.
actually that just made me realize I think this is likely one of the best sets they've ever done. We haven't seen this set. I'm just talking about in terms of general vibes and the idea of what they're presenting. It feels like it is going to be the best new player friendly set, right? Because
Mhm.
it's all mech. You don't have to learn 3 classes. And mech honestly is one of the easiest classes to play in the entire game. It's one of the classes that I use to teach new players how to play the game. Um and
Yeah.
It's just all mech. You only have to know how to play mech. You just shuffle the packs together. You don't really need an Ira welcome deck. What's cool about that is also it's kind of like the equivalent of Ira versus Ira, but it's randomized, so you can have different cards and more fun interactions. People aren't stupid, so I think having a little bit more complexity is always good. Not a ton of complexity, but a little bit more complexity to get people like really interested and invested in the stuff. And I think this is really smart, and um, I hope it is very successful. I think it will be, but I hope it is too. Right?
Mhm.
I feel like it could be really big, and I got my fingers crossed that they nail it.
Well, other thing as well, like obviously the pre-release sealed format, etc.
Mhm.
Yeah, this is actually going to be part of the calling in Barcelona, obviously. So
Mhm.
obviously it's going to be
Yeah.
the sealed calling is going to be this bright lights thing.
Yeah.
So that's going to be interesting to see being played at that level as well as
Just all
to
mech.
how that's going to be done. Yeah, just all mech in the calling Barcelona.
And
Um,
I do want to talk about the all mech thing later, but we can move on to the next part if we.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I think the next
Um,
part sort of filters into the whole mech thing, but it's the standalone expansion slot, right? Next bit.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. So we also got confirmation within the post itself that similar to the idea behind it and the vibe that I get for it, it's something that they're introducing called the expansion slot. And for those of you who have been around since Everfest, there was something that was kind of similar in Everfest. It was called the Carnival slot, and it was sort of a slot that showed up. It wasn't always sort of active, and the what I mean by that is um most of the time when you opened a pack of Everfest, there were just like 2 regular rares, but one of the slots had the opportunity to have equipment or reprint cards. No,
No,
that's what I think
it
people
it
were hoping
was
about.
no, no, it was just the carnival bauble thing. So like potions and
Mm,
amulets and all that kind of stuff. And then also
Yeah.
you could pull a couple of the legendaries in that slot too, I think.
yes, yeah,
Yeah.
that's what it was. It's been a little while since Everfest,
Uh,
um, but yeah, so what they're doing with this set with bright lights is something called the expansion slot, and essentially the way that they describe it here is it takes the place of a token. So instead of Everfest, where it was one of the rare slots, was also the carnival slot. This takes the spot of a token in 1 in every 15 boosters. And they say similar to how cold foils have replaced a token slot in recent Flesh and Blood boosters. And cards that can appear in the expansion slot are, quote, high rarity cards that either expand the story within the wider world of Wraith, so things that have to do with lore,
mm.
um, expand the tournament card pool of classes
Mm.
and or talents outside of the core focus of the product, which is an interesting thing
Yes.
that has some weird potential ramifications, but before I comment on that, the final bullet point is also serve as an avenue to reprint key cards such as Fiendel's Spring Tunic, which is one of the cards possible to find in the Bright Lights expansion slot. So we have a
Yes.
confirmation that there's another set in which Tunic is getting reprinted. So
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
honestly, it needs all the help it can get, in my opinion. So I'll never say no to that. Um, But yeah, so it basically serves the same, like they sort of have mentioned, it replaces a token slot. So in drafting, you would remove the 2 tokens either way.
Mhm.
So this functions the same way. So if you do open a spring tunic, you're not forced to pick that over something
Well,
else.
in fact, you cannot pick it. You
Yeah,
cannot play with it. It is,
yeah.
you just get it. Yeah.
So um, yeah, so very
Mm.
interesting. It's a slot that has a lot of potential, um, and never I never pass up an opportunity for things to get reprinted. Personally, even as an enfranchised player, I always appreciate when there's an opportunity for things to become easily accessible or more accessible
Yeah.
in any event. So,
That
um, yeah,
And the funny thing about that is my concern is that this slot might make some things inaccessible. And so this is my chief concern with this app, with Bright Lights. Basically centers around the expansion slot. And we don't really know a lot about the expansion slot. So I'm not like worried or super heavily concerned yet, but I still want to talk about it because it's something that should be addressed just in general. And we could talk about the directions this could potentially go. So for example, what I'm getting at here is that it doesn't specifically state that every single card in this slot is going to be a reprint. In fact, only one of the 3 bullet points says that it could be a reprint. In fact, the first bullet point said it could be a flavorful card, not necessarily a reprint, could be a mechanically unique card. And then the second bullet point is the one that makes me really feel that they're going to reprint some amount of mechanically unique cards specifically designed for competitive tournament play for archetypes that are not found in that particular product. What this feels like to me, what they're doing is that they are addressing the fact that they want to cut back on expansion sets, which is why this is called in the expansion slot, right? They're cutting back on expansion sets in lieu of this expansion slot so they can have more draft and sealed sets, more limited sets. And that's like really cool on paper, but the fact that it is 1 in 15 packs, that is less than 2 per box. And if they print cards that you need 3 of, and they are meta staples on the power level of something like an E-Strike Command and Conquer, Warmonger's Diplomacy, they're going to be extremely expensive and extremely sought after. And the degree of that depends on how good the cards are, how many possible cards are in the slot, right? So if there's only like 4 different possible cards that you can pull from the expansion slot, then that's a lot easier to pull, right? But if there's like 50 cards and you want to get 1 of 50 and you only pulling like 1 per box, that's very hard, especially to get 3 of them. And those are where you're going to get those like tunic level, CNC level prices. And so that is what concerns me, is if they are printing format staples, which it sounds like it, they literally say that they want to do that. If they're mechanically unique, which once again, they haven't said that they're going to be, they haven't said they're all going to be reprints. They haven't said, what percentage of them are going to be mechanically unique, what percentage are going to be reprints, but this is what gives me concern. And it's all for the sake of, consumer friendliness, and then card availability, right? Because reprinting Tunic is great, right? That makes the card more available for people. But if they also at the same time reprint like Command and Conquer 2, and everyone needs Command and Conquer 2 in the decks, and there's 50 different cards you can pull, they're going to be very expensive. And here's another $300 cards that you need to fill out your CC deck. So those are my concerns.
Yeah, it just depends on how many cards are unique to the expansion slot, because it does say that the expansion slot replaces a token in around 1 in 15 boosters.
Yeah.
So the expansion slot is only going to appear 1 in 15 times.
Less
but
than
how long?
Less than 2 per box. So it's like
So, but how long is that list? Obviously, it's similar to the list in Magic, where there's a list of cards that are either reprints or whatever. But is that how long is that list going to be, and are those cards unique? Because if they are unique, if you can only get that unique card 1 in 15 times, it's going to be very very hard to get, and that definitely makes sense. So it's going to be interesting to see how many actual cards there are going to be in this expansion slot.
Yeah, that's exactly my point. So
Yeah.
the things where I'm waiting to find out are how many different cards are there,
Mm.
how many cards are reprints versus how many cards are mechanically unique, and are they going to transfer these cards to the next set, or are they set specific? So in Magic the Gathering, the list is roughly the same, but does change a little bit from set to set. Whereas like this one, they could be the same for like a couple sets, or they're going to change it every set. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
so we'll see. On paper, it sounds cool. I bet collectors and investors are probably stoked about this, but for the people who want to, build their competitive decks, we'll see how they do it. Like I said, this is why I'm not overtly worried. I think it's just something we should keep our eye on that could pose a problem if it's not done in a consumer friendly way.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I think that's an important thing to highlight as well. Like it is about the implementation of it, I think first and foremost. Like if it only turns out that there are 10 cards that show up, like
Yeah.
the chase cards will be expensive, but if there's only 10 possible ones and there's like one, maybe two per box, then that will really, really drastically lower the the price of them because it will drastically increase the availability.
Yep.
So yeah, it'll be the difference of how many are there.
Yeah.
I know that's basically what you guys said, like verbatim. But yeah, I think the long and short of it is that's the deciding factor between whether or not this is a good thing or a bad thing.
But yeah,
Yeah.
what this also allows them to do, and obviously we spoke about this sort of proactive nature of the way they're releasing things now, and there is no set formula as to how they address sets going forward, is sort of the fact that it is a very proactive way of dealing with meta games.
Yeah.
So if there's an expansion slot on every set, if something is a menace, you can just be like, right, we're going to print some of these cards in this expansion slot, which can deal with that thing. So they're not sort of held down to saying, right, there's no ranger in this. Of course, I'm going to bring up ranger. There's no ranger in this bright light set, but there is a ranger card in there, which is good for this particular meta game that we're seeing at the moment, or whatever. It gives them that ability to print cards directly into these sets, which are more sort of flavored around metrics or whatever to other classes as well, which could be a good way to look at it also.
Yep. And like I said, this really does feel like their answer to not having very many expansion sets going forward, because they need a avenue to put all of these weird oddball cards or very specific cards for specific builds somewhere. So I do like this overall. I think it's a good idea, but once again, I'm just, it's like a wait and see kind of thing to see
Keep an eye on it.
how it's going to be. I did get someone who commented on the video that I made talking about this, and they're like, "Oh, there already are like mechanically unique, hard to pull cards like Fabled and Legendaries." But my response to that are, Fabled and Legendaries, you only ever need one, right? What happens when you need 3 Fiendel Spring Tunics and they're all like, there's 50 different options, like 50 different cards that you could pull in the slot, and you need that one specific card, Command and Conquer 2 or whatever. And you need 3 of them, right? It's going to be brutal. Or maybe not brutal. Maybe it'll be plentiful. We'll see how it goes.
But then it's also like, if they print a ranger card, for instance, that the ranger players want, the people that are cracking the packs for the other reasons are just going to put those cards on the market. They don't want them because they don't play ranger or whatever.
Oh yeah. The valuable cards will be valuable, but it does. It's kind of an interesting thing because it doesn't really give the ranger player reason to buy the set. Like, for example, as if you didn't care about limited at all or mech, but there is like a ranger card in here, you're not incentivized to buy the set to try to chase the 1 in 15 pack pull. You just buy singles, right? You just buy the one card you need and then just ignore the rest of the set, which is kind of cool for you because you're like, I just buy the one card.
But also for spoiler season, it also brings it if there is a ranger card in this set, for creators that love Ranger or love a certain thing that they're actually including in there, it allows them to get involved in a more of a sort of thematic way. So it also, the creator side of it, the people that are really, really focused on one hero and all that sort of thing, when it comes to spoiler season, could be good for that whole marketing side of things as well.
Yeah, do we want to talk about that real quick? Or maybe not real quick, depending on how much we have to say. That is the nature of this set, and also Dusk Till Dawn to a little bit of a lesser degree. But I think it's very bold that they're releasing Dusk Till Dawn, an expansion set that really only is Light, Shadow, and like a handful of hero classes, and then immediately after that it's an all mech set. So there's like a ton of other classes that are just not getting support in the last two sets, which is like, it's interesting because it's like some people can just be like, well, I just skipped the last two Flesh and Blood sets. I don't need to buy Dusk Till Dawn except for my Warmonger's Diplomacy, and I don't need to buy Bright Lights because I don't care about mech, and I don't play limited. It's a really bold
it's an interesting
move.
spot.
Yeah. Like, I think it'll make some people very happy, and I've already seen that, which is one of the best parts about this set, in my opinion. I've seen the joy of people who are just so stoked for this set, the same way that I was stoked for Outsiders, because I just love mech so much. But yeah, I'm curious, what are your guys' opinions on this, of like them just doing an all mech set? Like, yeah, what do you guys think about that?
I mean, I think it's kind of cool. I think I think I may have alluded to this a little bit earlier on, but it does, based on what we know, that mech hasn't gotten any support really outside of supplemental sets since it's been released. I don't think that it is, but it kind of feels like an overcorrection of just like, we haven't printed this. We've printed like 4 sets that have ninjas in them since the game started. So now all of a sudden, here's all the mech stuff. Here's all the stuff that we were supposed to have released at this time and didn't. I don't think that that's actually the case, but it just does seem kind of funny. I think that it is also interesting, like what Kel had mentioned, that it's kind of bold for them to do runner very like focused sets, because it could make certain people who only care about certain heroes potentially feel left out. But also on the flip side, like I was kind of saying, I think that mech was kind of like that for a while, so maybe it's just their time to be in the sun. um, and I don't know. I think largely it's not necessarily a bad thing. I know that with these sets releasing and just how cool they are, and at least how hard I go on them, having sets that I don't care about would be a blessing for my wallet personally. So having 2 in a row, from an engagement standpoint, probably doesn't feel great for the people that care that deeply about it. But for the people that really like the game, I think it's cool to see them grow it in this sort of way, and like Brian Gottlieb was saying, not stick to a singular sort of idea when it comes to what a set looks like, and how they're continuing to try to make things different and interesting. And I think this is just a reflection of that, and I think it's really exciting. I think it's really cool personally.
Yeah. All I'm going to say is, if Rachel Stoddard does not get a legendary card or a hero reveal, I think we all riot, to be honest.
She's gonna get something cool, you know it. Like, she's gonna get something cool. I bet both her and the professor are gonna get some dank stuff to show, because
some absolute dank,
because Prof is a huge mech fan as well. Though we already know he's going to be a mech hero himself in the upcoming supplemental set, which actually it's not a set, the product, the box set product thing that they're doing. We know he's going to be a mech in that's going to actually drop before Bright Lights. Like, it's going to drop. Wait, this month? No, next month in September. It's going to drop in September.
September as well. Yeah, so I guess that's. Actually, I think this is another interesting point as well. Is I believe the artist who done Teklo Varson Adult is the same artist who did the Professor's art as well.
I think so. Yeah, I think you're right.
So there was a speculation going around that maybe Teklo-Varsen is just a reskin of the Professor's ability in the Round the Table product. There was a speculation on that on Twitter. So that's an interesting thing, because people were saying like the Professor is obviously a mechanologist hero, but is it going to be? Could it be Teklo-Varsen? That's why he's a Majestic as well, was because he's just a reskin of the same character, same hero.
I think the Professor one will be a young hero because it's like an ultimate pit fight style set. So I think they're all going to be young heroes.
That's true.
And the Majestic is like the adult version, but I mean, it could be. Sure. I mean, why not? It could also. I think there's an equally likely chance that it's a completely different, mechanically, unique hero that probably has to do with multiplayer. That's my guess. My personal guess is it's a different hero that specifically has to do with like ultimate pit fight multiplayer stuff. I don't actually know, but that's my guess. And they probably wanted to make Teklo-Varsen specifically designed for this whole Evo mechanic that seems like it's going to be at play in Bright Lights. One thing we didn't note is, even though this is an all mech set, they did say in the article that there's going to be multiple archetypes to play. Right? You're not going to just be playing. Everyone's not just going to be playing the same mech deck in draft. There's like multiple. I would assume 3. One for each hero, but we'll see.
Windmill slam, Terminator tank all day long. Absolute Gundam wing style. Let's go.
Yeah.
That's my plan for limited.
Or
play as many Terminator tanks as I find.
I said BattleTech, but that also looks like I think, is it actually called a Terminator unit in 40K? Like the
it might be.
Like the it might actually, hold on.
There we go. Real life Googling.
I'm just gonna type in Terminator Tank 40K and see what comes up. Cause I feel like it is. I'm a casual 40K fan. Terminator Tank 40K. No, it's not called that. Well, no, wait, it is. Terminator. They're called Terminator suits. Yeah, there is.
Oh, there we go.
There you go.
The Terminator suit is the suit that the Space Marines wear. So it's not the actual big mech suits. The Terminator suits are their normal armor. So it is a thing in 40K for sure.
Nice.
Like it's these things for the visual people.
Yeah, it's just like the Kara space that they're in, sort of thing. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
But overall, I love the look of this set. I love the steampunky sort of Blade Runner-esque stuff. And I think we did see. It's not on this article, so I'm not sure where that piece is, but I'm pretty sure I saw like a motorbike as well, like a piece of art, like a motorbike, neon motorbike thing as well. I'm not sure whether that was on this article or not, but
in the video we did see. I don't remember. We saw there's a bunch of stuff in the video. People who haven't.
Video?
Yeah, there's a trailer.
Yeah, the release video.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, it's got like sweet sweet music to it too. Yeah.
Although something I will say, and I'm sure you haven't forgotten about this. I hope that you haven't forgotten about this. But we do know that motorbikes for sure exist in the world of Wraith because of Mr. Tobias Bone, my good friend T-Bone.
Do you like steak? Shout out to anyone. Shout out to the people who watched the Shuffle Up and Play Flesh and Blood video. Do you like steak? Small aside, we actually did go get steak after that game. We actually got steak dinner. Yes. So
brilliant.
But there are motorbikes.
So
it's a weird.
Very excited to see if they do something more with that.
Lore-wise, it's a weird dichotomy, and Az already kind of alluded to this by saying like, where were the Terminator tanks when all the demons are attacking Solana? Like, it is kind of a weird juxtaposition, right? Where you have like Terminator tanks, and then you also have Reinar, who's just like a naked dude in the jungle with a stick,
wearing like barkbone tree clothes.
Yeah, and then there's like
this like scowling flesh bag as a helmet, like just a bag of flesh on his head.
And there's just like this actual like Robotech Gundam thing with like missile launch, like missile shoulder mounts and rocket powered jet engines and shit. Like it's kind of a weird disconnect. I don't know.
It would make for funny tales, wouldn't it? You know, if for whatever reason Reinar found himself in metrics for some reason. It would be funny, like later on down the line, to see why and all that sort of thing. And the IP itself, you know, all these different places and worlds, and the IP is so strong that obviously when we do see that transposed over to other media, because I think that will happen eventually, because it's such a slam dunk of a game and a world and all this, it's going to be fun to see those characters in those places where they shouldn't be.
It reminds a lot of League of Legends, because League of Legends has a similar thing, right? Because they have like the Kingdom of Demacia, and they also have like Piltover, and it's like it's kind of like the same thing. And I just can't help but wonder if like the people in Mysteria are using like steam powered Teklo kettles or something, right? Like do does the layman have access to this technology like outside of metrics? We've heard of like black tech markets in the pits having some of the tech, but like do the people of Volcor have it? Like there's like one of the random Volcorian soldiers, like a bunch of other guys have like these halberds and spears, and another dude just has a gun. Like he's just got
a Hanabi blaster,
a gun. Because so I don't know, it's weird.
I'm personally into the headcanon of Volcorians not having kettles. They just have these like really verbose and bloviated spells to like boil a cup for tea.
That's right. Yeah.
Like just like sonic boom.
Can someone from Metrics just go walk into the Savage Lands with like a bunch of guns on them and then rule the entire jungle? Because like you shoot them. I don't know. Like they're just rolling on their motorcycle. They're just like. Just like blasting all of the brutes. I don't know. These things exist. Like, can you? I don't know. Just imagine like one of the Terminator tanks fighting the guy from like the Celestial guy from like Celestial Cataclysm and the new one. And so it's like this giant godlike figure fighting this tank. It's an anime. Flesh and Blood is an anime, everyone.
It's an anime all along.
Anime. We figured it out.
All the people who are like, I don't like anime. I only like stuff like Flesh and Blood. Guess what? You like an anime.
You like anime now.
You like anime.
Unfortunately.
The end of this is going to be all of the people fighting God, like all animes. Like it's gonna be like Dash and Dorinthia and Benji, and they're fighting God, which is probably like Soul or something or other.
Yeah, it's just Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann all over again.
Yeah, it's gonna have a hard twist.
Mistakes.
It's gonna have dude, Gurren Lagann's sweet. They start throwing galaxies at each other at the end. It's insane. If you haven't seen Gurren Lagann, it's you should watch Gurren Lagann. It's insane.
Throwing galaxies at each other. Wow.
No, they do. They're bigger than the galaxies, and so like at one point they grab it and they just.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
hey,
it's incredible.
It's just Spiral, man. Spiral just punches all the way to the top, man. Anyway, and then there's anti-spirals. Anyway, I'm expecting the big turn with the set 3, the Monarch set 3, and it's just all Evangelion. And then there's a picture of like it's like sad Bolton just standing there, and then all the figures are around him, like the end of Ava image.
No. Warmonger's, if there's an Evangelion set, Warmonger's Diplomacy reprint, where it's just like Bolton going like this.
Get in the Annihilator tank, Benji.
Get in the Terminator tank.
Yeah, Terminator tank. Oh my god. Well,
yeah. Anyway, with all of that,
I found the topic of. I found the title of this episode. It's called "Flesh and Blood is an Anime."
Flesh and Blood is an anime. Yeah, but anyway, that's sort of the long and short of what we know so far about Bright Lights. I'm very intrigued. I was definitely not expecting this to be the next set. Like this reveal, at least for me, kind of came out of nowhere. But I'm totally okay with it.
I called the metric set 10 months ago when I made a video that was like, hey, you should all buy like all this cool mech stuff because like they need to be printing this mech stuff. So I hope you all bought the mech stuff, by the way, because that's probably very, very expensive already.
Yeah.
And then after Outsiders, I was like, oh yeah, mech set next. And then they did Dust Hold On, and I was like, well, I guess I don't know anything. I'm all wrong. And then like JK, mech set next set. It's like they just put in Dust Hold On. They're just like, here's a little bit of, hey, remember the Light and Shadow? They're still doing stuff. Back over to Metrics in the Pits. So
Yeah, I think we spoke about speculations on this podcast as well, like the fact that the pits and metrics are so aligned with each other. You know, you've got the bright lights of the city and the dark and dingy pits and what have you. We did speak about whether they could be two in the same set or two in the same year, and that we were on the right lines because bright lights is now here. So to a certain degree, I don't know whether that's really going to tie in with what's going on, but yeah. It's looking fun, looking good. So a couple of concerns, and obviously for people that don't care about mech, you know, it's one of those things again, like we've had where we don't really want to buy too much of it.
Well,
but that's also a positive as well.
Really. I would say like if you don't care about mech, just try limited, try draft.
Try limited, yeah, exactly.
There's like two different or three different ways to play limited now. There's the just shuffle 3 packs together. There's the 4-pack sealed, and now there's draft, and all of them use under. Like 4 under packs, so you don't actually need very many packs to do this, right? The most pack intensive is going to be sealed, which is only 4 packs. So it seems like a pretty easy way to try it out. Yeah,
just experience the set in a sort of condensed manner where you don't have to really buy cases of it if you're not really into it. You can just buy a couple of packs and do the crack pack shuffle and play. You don't want to be packing any cracks at the game, so I'll tell you that now.
Crack.
Anyway.
Packing them cracks.
Packing those.
One thing I do want to note, though, is I think I'll probably end up interacting more with this set to a significantly greater degree than I am with Dust Till Dawn right now. I want to build some Dust Till Dawn decks. But currently, I opened up my last 2 boxes. I mentioned this at the beginning of the show. I opened my last 2 boxes last night, and I couldn't tell you what like any of the rares and commons do. Like, I'll be honest. Like I just grabbed this pile that I have right here. Dude, I don't know. But for Outsiders, I know what most of them do because I played a lot of draft and a lot of sealed for Outsiders. Like you have your Spire Snipings and all that kind of stuff. Even though some of those do make it into like Azalea. Yeah, so I imagine because this is a limited set, I'll probably have a lot more familiarity with it, and that's kind of exciting to me because as I was opening Dust Till Dawn, I was just kind of like, what's my chase card? Like, did I get a Majestic or did I get a chase card? Throw everything, put it all else onto a pile. So I was like, yeah, I don't know. I'm looking for bright lights.
At least with this, you can make some content out of it as well. You don't have to go full in with regards to the set. You can just buy 4 packs, crack them with a friend, and then just see what the gameplay is out of the back of it. You know, that's one thing you couldn't really do with Dust Till Dawn. Whereas with this whole thing is cool and worth experimenting with. The funny thing about the graphic as well, if you look at the crack, shuffle, and play, they're cracking a pack, shuffling the cards together, and then they're laying down a shitty Christmas present.
Yeah.
I was like, what's that about?
I mentioned that in the video that I made. Yeah, there's a shitty Christmas present here. I'll make it bigger here so everyone can see.
You cannot escape the shitty Christmas present.
You really can't.
100% Azalea confirmed.
100% Ranger confirmed.
Dust Till Dawn.
There's nothing else. There's nothing else that could mean. That's it. We figured it out.
Like, Evos are just evolve into Rangers the whole time. Demi hero. You change class mid game. That's what it's going to be. The new Demi hero.
What I do like about this is that they actually announced the set in a proper way and wasn't just kind of like pseudo leaked on ICV2 or whatever. And then also like they were very straight up. They're like, this is an all mech set. So no one has to be like, oh, is there going to be Necromancer, like Mechromancer, Shadow Mech, like
brute mech?
Shut
up. It's all mech.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like you don't have the endless amount of speculation that I also partake in, but I think I like that they're just like, no, it's mech. Like it's mech, and you're gonna draft it. Like that's and you're gonna play sealed. That's what you're gonna do. Look at there's robots. Get in the
Those
robot.
robots, you're gonna like them.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess people can speculate on the last hero. You know, there's that. I've already had people in my Discord suspecting it's like this like green haired character. And some of the art. I don't know. We'll see. I hope it's another new character, and I hope Datadol is a demi-human. I mean, not demi-human, demi-hero. I mean, she could also be a demi-human. I don't know. I don't know if she's an android or a cyborg. There is a difference. If you people out there don't know the difference between an android and a cyborg, but there is a difference.
She would actually be
I think
gynoid, because android is male, but I don't know if.
Oh.
I think it. Yeah, I think. I don't know. It's something like that. Somebody in the comments, if you actually know the proper the proper Latin for it, if it's Latin or Greek, let us know. Comment down below. Do you know what a female version of an android is?
And for those of you who don't know, a cyborg is a human who has cybernetic enhancements, and an android is basically like a robot, like all robot.
Yeah.
Like a human-like robot.
Another thing I just want to point out as well, looking at this this art of Teklo and Dash. So obviously Teklo has his full situation there going on. Teklo esteemed magnate, and then Dash just says dash, 1/0.
Yeah, I called her Dash IO, but I don't actually know what it's supposed to be. It is going to be a new Dash for sure. So I think that's her name. I think that is the adult version of the new Dash IO or whatever that is.
This is like a Bravo situation where Bravo has Showstopper, and then we got Star of the Show. So it's a hero that's being done again, which is obviously going to have maybe a different ability if it's a new hero.
Yeah, I
feel like Prism as well.
And Prism,
Prism.
Prism as well. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I feel it'll be like probably closer power level to like Arachne kind of deal, where it's like here's Arachne, here's a slightly different Arachne.
Yeah. But does that mean that the old Dash will still be playable or not? Because obviously, if you start doing this, you're soft rotating.
Probably. They've done a good job of making the old heroes like still be really good.
Yeah.
And
don't want the old classics to be lost to the aether, but then I guess that's something that inherently can happen if you're gonna evolve your game. You know, the older stuff will eventually get left behind, or not. You know, it's one of those things.
Well, that's
people thought that would happen with Viscerai. They were like, oh, they're printing like the Shadow Rune Blade and they're printing the Elemental Rune Blade. Now people still love Viscerai. People still play Viscerai. Viscerai got Living Legend after Briar came out in Blitz, so I think they'll still be good.
Yeah, and I also think that's something that they are acutely aware of, which again I keep referencing back to conversations that we've already had, but we have some pretty good conversations. The interesting thing about how they've been sort of taking care of heroes recently, like they did with Azalea, like they've done with Levia, like they did with Bolton, that they're aware of situations in which heroes might be being left behind, and sort of doing something special to keep them at least in the public eye. Maybe not necessarily at competitive tables, but just throwing them something to make sure that people don't think that they've just forgotten about them. And I think that this is another extension of the whole Azalea thing, of the whole Levia thing, just with mechanologist as a whole. They're like, yo, mechanologist.
But then also,
go ahead.
I was going to say, yeah, but then also the expansion slot can also do that as well. If they're going to continue to do, the expansion slot, they can still throw little bits of love in the form of just a card here and there to those heroes as well, which I think is also a very good thing without having to focus an entire set on it. This year feels like it's been Ranger love for Azalea. Then we've got new Prism, and the old light and shadow thing coming back in the form of the heroes of LL, and now we have all these dash stuff, and obviously Bolton and that and Levi were also touched on Industrial Dawn as well, of course. And now it seems like this is the year of buffing the ones that need the buffing, but the expansion slot could be the way of doing that going forward to a certain degree. Now that everything is potentially on the same level.
What
But
my hope is for Bright Lights is not exactly that it buffs Dash. Dash is already like pretty good, but what I
new
hope
way to
it
play.
Yeah, what I hope it does is it gives players different avenues to play the mech class. And that's what it was mostly missing, mech heroes. Like there was literally only Dash as the
True.
adult mech hero. So like putting 3
Yeah.
more in is like awesome. Even if one of them is Dash still, just having more is good. Because I heard
That's
people
right, yeah,
Be
'cause-
a substantial shot in the arm, that's for sure.
Yeah. Because I heard people complaining like this is a valid complaint. They're like, Assassin literally just came out and it has more adult heroes than mech, and I'm like, you're not wrong. Even though regular Arachne, they're not like the best, but still.
At least there's two ways to play. You've got obviously the Azuri switcheroo, and then obviously the banish contract fatigue stuff. But yeah, no, it's definitely a good point. There's only one hero to play in constructed, and that was Dash, and that's boost. And I guess you could do boost or items. They still had a couple of ways you could take them, but
we didn't mention this. There's going to be a crap load of new items in the set. I think they said there's going to be 30 new items.
30. And
so the old Dash is viable then.
Well, they have to be cost. They have to be. Well, the old Dash, there has to be cost 2 or less. So if they print a lot of like 3 and plus, she can't just free roll them. But Datadol might be able to.
The interesting thing is that as of now, we don't have any items that cost 2 or more. So this is, I would say, pretty probably going to be our first foray into items that cost 3, 4, 5.
100%.
And that is where you get the value off of Datadol. If you're boosting things into play that cost 5, for instance, then you get a ridiculous trigger off of it or whatever when it comes into play or whatever.
And there's the other thing that we didn't talk about is they said there's going to be a new mechanic called Crank, and Crank has to do with items specifically. My guess is that they give items go again. That makes sense. You're cranking the thing to make it go.
Oh yeah.
And so that makes it so you're more viable to play multiple items in a single turn. That's my theory with Crank. I don't know how you do it, but my theory is that it lets you play multiple items.
Yeah.
Crank.
I think
that
that's
could be good.
A reasonable guess. I will say, very unfortunately, because I was very excited about this potentially as well. Datadol does care about cost 2 or less as well. So she can't cheat into play anything huge. But again, if they print even just 10 of them are cost 2 or less, and 5 of them are good, that's like a billion new options for Datadol. Essentially.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Like it doesn't need to be much.
You gotta know. There's like a legendary item in the works, right? Like there's gotta be like some legendary item. Like
almost certainly. And
well, it'd be the Fabled, surely. The Fabled in the set's got to be a legendary item. Fabled item.
Hell yeah.
Could be.
It's just 3 Teklo pounders.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Hey, first thing you boost this turn gets +6.
Gets +6.
No, it gets +2 dominate and go again. And it's called Teklo Star of the Show.
Star of the Teklo.
Captain Teklo. Planet Teklo.
And it forces your opponent to discard 2 cards too.
Discard 2 cards.
If you fuse it with a Evo item, I don't know, man.
Yeah, and then you take an extra turn after this one or something.
You banish the top 20 cards to the opponent's deck, and you can play any of them at instant speed. They cost 4 less for each one you've banished or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah,
anyway.
I think these are all very reasonable assumptions as to what
design choices.
But yeah. With all that being said, I think we are now solidly in the weeds. So I think we can probably look to wrap this one up. But before we do, does anybody have anything that they would like to put in their arsenal. Is that the verbiage that we decided on? Because I don't know if I
Put
like
it
that
in.
or not.
Put it in your arsenal, right up in there.
Yeah,
Um,
back in those cracks.
I don't have. Oh, actually, I do have one small thing. I've been playing a lot more video games recently, because I've been forcing myself to actually take some time off, and even though I've been putting out almost a video every single day, and I've been playing a lot of Street Fighter 6. In addition to Remnant 2, completely different games. Remnant 2, which is a third-person looter shooter actiony game, which is brilliant, by the way. I love the art design on it, and then I've also been just beating people up in Street Fighter. If you're, in case you're wondering, because anytime you mention a fighting game, everyone's always like, "Ooh, who do you main?" Either Cammy or Ken. Ken is typically my go-to. Has been my go-to since like Street Fighter 3 Turbo. I have been playing Street Fighter quite a bit. I don't want to like humble brag, but I'm okay. I'm okay at Street Fighter. I can hang. And I've been really enjoying like the open world story mode called like World Tour. There's an open world, you just run around and you have your custom character and you just run around and do quests and beat people up on the streets. The story's
really?
the story's kind of dumb, but who cares? Like it's fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I made my character obviously look like one of my original characters. I tried to make her look like villain. And instead she looks like a cross between Lara Croft and Emilia Clarke. So, you know.
Fantastic.
Yeah, there's that. So that's my Arsenal stuff. Anyone else?
Nice. Yeah.
Not
Well, I mean,
really.
we went over as's. I don't think I have anything in specific.
I have one more thing for all you other weebs out there, since Flesh and Blood's
Yeah.
an anime. Check it out.
Absolutely.
So this is a manga called Record of Ragnarok. I bought the whole thing in one go. It's an ongoing thing, but Record of Ragnarok is basically a story. It's basically a tournament arc, and that's the whole manga. It's all fighting, and it's awesome. It's gods versus humanity. So this is Lubu, and this is Thor. And they just fight to the
Lubu.
yeah. They just fight to the death. Hold on, and here's Zeus versus Adam, from Adam and Eve. Let's see. This is Kojiro, which is like a if you know the legend of the swordsman who had the washing pole, the really really long sword. And then this guy's Poseidon. Anyway, it's super fun. It's kind of insane. It's kind of silly, but it's great. The final one was that I've seen so far is Heracles versus Jack the Ripper.
Oh wow, nice.
It's crazy and it's a ton of fun. It was highly recommended to me, and I see why. I read this whole thing in 2 days. I just ate this up, and I will be buying it every new volume that comes out that's translated. So Record of Ragnarok, dumb but rad as hell. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah,
Is Achilles in there?
They have a list of all of the combatants. Achilles, I don't know if Achilles is in here, but some of the combatants that I'm looking forward to seeing how they fight. There's Nostradamus and Rasputin are both in here.
Yeah.
And then
celebrity deathmatch.
And then there's also like the ones that you would expect, like there's Shiva on the god side. There's Odin. All that good stuff. So I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be cool. So yeah, good manga.
That's wild.
Good turn your brain off material. Just kind of like watch them beat each other up.
Yeah.
I actually sort of on that note, I've been watching like way more anime than I normally do recently. Some of the seasonal stuff, specifically there's one that I just finished yesterday called Hell's Paradise. Which is
I know this.
Quite good. Yeah, it's about this shinobi who has trained so hard that he's like kind of unkillable, but he gets exiled from his from his village, and ends up getting arrested, and has the chance to get a pardon from the what's the word for it? The guy, the war general,
Shogun.
The shogun, yeah. He gets the opportunity to get a royal pardon from the shogun so that he can go and live his life with his wife, in peace. But to do so, he has to find like a fabled elixir of immortality on this island where just things turn you into flowers. Essentially, I'm like way downplaying it. It's really cool. It's really well animated.
There's a lot of like fighting and shit. Like,
oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
like very violent.
yeah, like that's why I'm like, I know this. This is what I'm familiar. I haven't watched the whole thing. I've only watched a little bit of it, but it was another one of those shows that was recommended to me. They're like, oh, it's awesome. You'd like it. I'm like, all right, let's give it a shot. And I'm like, no, this is cool.
Nice.
I dig it.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
that one's highly recommended. I've been watching as it comes out Zom 100, which is a really dumb but very fun show.
Also-
And I've been keeping up with the new season of Jujutsu Kaisen, which is absolutely incredible. I
need to
loved
watch
it
that.
before, and I love it even more now.
I need to watch. So Robin and I watched all of. So I watched all of Jujutsu Kaisen season 1, and I was like, this is great. And then I convinced my partner Robin to watch it with me, and then she also liked it. But we still. So I've seen the first season twice. We still need to watch Zero, the movie, and then we need to watch this because I think season 2 is a prequel, right? Of to season 1.
Season 2. Yeah, season 2, the first, as far as I know, the first half of it is a prequel.
Yeah.
It happens like before Zero, because Zero is also a prequel
Yes.
to what we've seen in season 1. But season 2, the first half of it is a prequel to the prequel that is the movie.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a lot of sort of backwards world building and storytelling, but it's so good. I'm a big fan, and I'm really enjoying it.
The animation for season 1 was like awesome. So I'm very much
Oh, yeah.
looking forward to finally getting around to it. Robin and I like have a bad habit of starting a show and then like we didn't finish it. So for example, we were watching the last season of Mob Psycho 100, which is also an amazing show. We never finished it. We have like 2 episodes to go. So we need to like just get the time to just knock out the last couple episodes of Mob Psycho before we start something like Jujutsu Kaisen, or even like Demon Slayer, because we have been keeping up with Demon Slayer, but I like Jujutsu Kaisen a lot more. It's a cool show.
Yeah.
Um,
Jujutsu Kaisen is it's so good.
Uh,
The only thing is, and I know that like binge watching is like actually overall bad for your enjoyment of a show, but God, I want to just watch the entire season. Making me wait for it is painful, but it's a good pain. It's worth it.
oh god, Jujutsu Kaisen is such a like funny show too. So sometimes it's like awesome and it's also kind of funny. One of the standout episodes of season 1 where it's like Gojo is training the main dude and he's forcing him to watch movies and to like not react to them, and then one of the movies is like Lord of the Rings and there's like an anime Frodo and anime like Sam, and I'm like, they actually did it. It's just like actually Lord of the Rings. It's not like knockoff Lord of the Rings. No, it's like trying to be, I don't know, it's a funny show.
Yeah,
it's cool.
Yeah, I love it.
Here's a before we leave, here's a tiny little bit of deep lore for my YouTube channel. My channel avatar, my Red Zone Rogue avatar, is drawn by an artist who is known for like Jujutsu Kaisen style like art, and so my avatar kind of looks like a Jujutsu Kaisen character. So
that's metal. That's
yeah.
rad.
Yeah, so that's a little bit of that. Anyway, that's it.
Yeah.
Flesh and Blood's an anime. You like an anime too.
Flesh and Blood's an anime. That
really
that helps wrap this all together and make it seem like I wasn't just rambling on about shows that I've been watching.
Hey.
But yeah, anyway, I think that'll just about do it for this episode of the Living Legends podcast. So to sign us off, I have been Bill from the Spike Feeders. You can find me on X and other various social medias at BillTSF. You can also find me on YouTube at the Spike Feeders Fab. We do live edited gameplay content. If that's something that interests you, you should definitely come check us out. And I'll kick it over once again alphabetically to Az. Where can the people find you, my friend?
Yeah, absolutely. So Go Again Gaming AZ on Twitter or whatever it is now, and Go Again Gaming on YouTube. And if you haven't seen it yet, when you're listening to this or watching this back, the Calling Birmingham vlog will be up. So that'll be on Go Again Gaming YouTube channel. It is rated 18 for excessively use of the F word. So go and have a look. It's a fun time.
Yep, go check it out. Go check it out. And I'm Kel, and you can find me at Red Zone Rogue everywhere. I've been playing a lot of card games recently. Right now is like an absolutely amazing time to be a TCG fan, especially if you are into TCGs outside of the big three, because I've been very, very much enjoying, obviously, Flesh and Blood, but also Grand Archive and Shadowverse in particular, and just been having so much fun with them. So if you want to hear me talk about card games in general, follow me on all the things. Yep, that's that. And also, you will have heard it at the beginning of the episode, but I want to give another shout out to our sponsor, the Banish Zone.
Right.
Yep, I think they're still working on getting all of their online stuff up and running. They're kind of focusing on their in-store activities. And speaking of which, they do have a event coming up. Do you remember the time for the event here?
Yeah. So you would have heard it all at the start of the show. So I'm going to be doing a separate advert for that, which I'm going to send you directly after this once I've done it. But yeah, it's the 12th of August, 1 p.m. till 8 p.m. and it's the skirmish event. So once again, you would have heard this already, but the prize is you got 2 times Genesis Cold Foil, which are one awarded to the winner and one's awarded at random. You got 33 times Herald of Tenacity Extended Art Rainbow 4, which is given out as a participation. You got 2 times Flicker Trick playmats. One each is awarded to first and second place finishers. You got a case of Dusk Till Dawn, with 1 box going to the winner, 1 box going to second place, half a box to third and fourth, and a quarter of a box going to 5 to 8th place. So loads of prizes being handed out, and then you got a 1 case of Dusk Till Dawn random drawing for 1 box, 4 half a box, and 4 quarters of a box. So just random drawings for packs there. But yeah, just get along to it. They're giving away loads of prizes, and yeah, they're a great sponsor of the channel. Thanks for continuing to work with us. And yeah, they're sort of East Coast USA, Pennsylvania, I believe.
Yeah, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Yeah, huge shout out to our sponsor, as mentioned. Huge shout out to you, the viewer, for hanging out with us for another fantastic episode. What do you think about Bright Lights? Leave a comment down below if you are excited for Bright Lights, or if this is going to be another set that, like Dusk Till Dawn, you might not be as excited about if you play a different hero. And if you do, who do you play? Who do you want to see a Bright Lights style set about coming up in the future? Anyway, with that being said, once again, thank you so much for joining us. Stay well and stay safe, and we will catch you all in the next episode.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Ooh, I'm blinded by the light.
No,
Blup, blup.